Tarquin McPherson, actor, takes us through his diaries in a forthcoming production.
Good morning. Although, this being the internet, it could be any time. May not even be good, so my first two words may be wildly inaccurate, but I deliver them in the way that I deliver everything, with the cheery hope that you are both good and morning. Without a you. For morning is a painful, cold process, where morning is the time usually associated for me to rejoice, the challenge of a new day, a new experience, a new chance to show the world exactly who Tarquin McPherson really is, as opposed to standing in a churchyard in the rain listening to crying women throw mud at a box. It is with this in mind that I am saying goodbye to my former agent Arnold Kemp. Kempy, as he was known throughout the industry, has represented me since I entered the profession some years ago, and he got me work in many exciting new projects. A tap dancing production of Planet of the Apes, Travesty, which was the only soap opera to be set in Aztec Peru, and Squelch, the story of a raspberry fighting prejudice in the civil service. He also gained me work as a face. Whether outside our industry, a face is somebody whose visage is associated with a product or service. Like Andy McDowell is the face of Max Factor, and for many a year I was the face of Wenton Suppositories. In later years, Kempy seemed to lose his ambition. Some blamed age or drive. Others said his outmoded form of management was now to place with the modern era of telephones and cars. But I myself always believed it was the move to solely represent glove puppets which finally put the proverbial into his coffin. Not literally, of course. That was a man called Gerald. How was I to compete with names like Sooty, Basil Brush, or the Fingerbobs? I had to move to another agent, Jackie Prump Management, and a good thing I did too, because not 1 week after I left Kempy's care, the Fingerbobs were arrested in a major people-smuggling, sex, prostitution and drugs racket, the like of which has never been seen before, particularly involving glove puppets. All the acts were besmirched by this calumny, and I understand Sooty in particular has had to have witness protection, and now works for Virgin Media in acquisitions. Jackie, though, is very supportive. I haven't actually met her. I have been working with Leon, one of her top underlings. Some may consider it weird to have a hierarchy of underlings, but in the modern world you need underlings under the underlings. Leon first struck me as a little bit sycophantic. When I said upon our introduction, "Leon, as in the lion?" he laughed for a whole 10 minutes. After he had dried his eyes, nose and chin, he informed me that I should be in the next high-level, maximum-octane, thought-provoking, hard-hitting and dangerous production, and set about getting me the part of Buttons in the Chorlton Christmas pantomime. I intend to prove myself, as I have never proved myself before.
The audition, September the 1st, 2009.
It is a harsh reality of our business that 95% of actors are unemployed at any one time. Many of my contemporaries supplement their skills by performing live art, improvised work such as in Dixon's or McDonald's. A friend of mine was forced to do street theatre, and should he ever need to draw on his skills as a stinking drunk tramp, he shall not be found wanting, particularly if the role demands the aroma of a dank canal. As with many actors, I have a ritual that I go through before I expose myself to the casting agents. Some actors have lucky gongs, some whirl around dervish-like, calling out the ingredients of pasta sauce. It's all up to this certain individual. I have heard tell of a certain celebrity, who modesty forbids me from naming, who finds a spot for resurfacing work on the A2 to work for her every time. Has even had a mile of it transferred to her house, which somewhat immodestly is called Castle Vorderman. My ritual is a simplistic one. For some reason I've always enjoyed the sounds that mallards make, and I find quacking at intervals of no less than 7 seconds an hour before my arrival bodes me in good stead for my arduous task. This does provoke some strange looks from those on the tube, though I am reluctant to use buses since my audition at the Bristol Old Vic, which I made the mistake of catching an open-topped vehicle. As usual, my ritual commenced once seated, but these troubles soon arose. It was hard to explain my tardy arrival was due entirely to a male mallard trying to mate with my trilby. So here I sit, in what is known as reception, awaiting my turn to impress. I have been asked to stop quacking by the receptionist, who clearly has no notion of the sheer hellish emotions which run through the gamut of my body. I sit alone in silence, but there are several other hopefuls here. I shall break them down accordingly.
The young hopefuls.
They clutch at folders of photographs, their heads full of heady intent to be the next Hugh Grant or Gillian Anderson. Oh, the sweet innocence of youth. I remember myself at their tender year. I didn't have a portfolio. My work was known, but even then I had problems getting it. I think producers simply thought I was too good and would put the other performers in the shade with my brilliant interpretations. In those days we worked mainly in repertory companies, travelling from one location to another, sometimes rather fast. On one occasion I missed my itinerary of the project locations, or mislaid it, and ended up 50 miles away from the other members of the cast. On that night my performance as Oliver, the troubled young heroin addict trying to make good with his gay lover while standing up for the prejudice of the Thatcher years against the coal industry, while all the time carrying on an incestuous infatuation with his mother, went down badly in King's Norton Primary School. As is our habit, the cast expressed little surprise when I eventually caught up with them in the community centre in Arbroath. "Oh, it's you," they said. That's the one thing I love about actors. They expect the unexpected, although the fact that it did keep on happening, they'd left the hotel rather early the next day, really didn't surprise me as much as it had initially. When I challenged them, they said it was a tradition in theatre called lose the tit. How charming these quaint customs are still maintained in this modern era.